News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GBNews, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, 9:30 on Thursday, the 16th of April, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, are we in for a tax tsunami? The International Monetary Fund is calling out the Chancellor for raising taxes at the fastest rate in the world. Remember who said this 2 years ago?
It comes to choices on tax. This government chooses to protect working people every single time.
Britain could face a fresh food crunch with chicken and pork supplies under threat due to the Strait of Hormuz blockade. We'll tell you more about that.
And there's due to be a social media showdown today. The Prime Minister is hauling social media bosses to Downing Street to demand tougher child protection online.
I'm absolutely clear in my mind we need to do more. We're not protecting children enough. So the question for me is not whether we do something, we are going to do something.
An outrage in Epsom. Protests erupt in the town as protesters demand police release descriptions of the men suspected of gang raping a woman outside a church.
Well, protesters want answers, but police say they do not yet have sufficient information to release the answers they want.
And some breaking news this morning. Blackpool South MP Chris Webb tells GB News that the Metropole Hotel will no longer be used to house illegal migrants.
This will close within 3 months. The Home Office are already engaging now with Britannia and with Serco to rehouse these people elsewhere in the country.
We know that Britain's roads have been plagued for far too long with potholes, and so we want to take action and get these fixed.
Labour's bumpy ride. A pothole takes the Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander's Mini Cooper off the road in Oxfordshire. Some might say that's karma.
And a win for people with ginger hair. Scientists at Harvard say that natural selection favours redheads, and it may have grown more common because it was beneficial 4,000 years ago.
This government said they were putting aside billions of pounds to repair potholes, which would go to record levels under the last government. It does seem ironic, doesn't it, if the Transport Secretary herself's own car is taken off the road by probably wasn't a pothole, it's probably a crater.
Well, maybe that kind of lived experience will be exactly what she needs to get going. I mean, they do always appear at a certain time of year, don't they, after kind of frosts are over, but there doesn't seem to be any effective way of fixing them all.
I don't think they fix them properly. I think they do cheap fixes, which are temporary, and that's the problem. I mean, I just know where I live in North London. This wretched pothole comes back every year, and the repair people are there every year, and I say, are you going to fix it properly? Don't shout at us, Gov.
No. Well, I mean, it is dreadful for car drivers. My son passed his driving test, got a first car, an old banger, and then promptly the tyre got popped by a pothole. But it's cyclists that I'm even more concerned about because, especially with road bikes with thin tyres, they can chuck people off their bikes. They're really, really dangerous.
And, of course, a lot of people now sue their local council because you can potentially get compensation because a bike these days can cost £2,000.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially if you get injured as well. Yes, dreadful. The other thing we're going to be talking about this morning, of course, is potential food shortages coming this summer. Now, the government is not saying, or people warning about this saying, not saying there's not going to be any food, but there are particular types of products, fizzy drinks, chicken and pork, that there might be shortages of on the shelves.
And that's all to do with the closure of the Strait of Hormuz?
Yes, so apparently the transport of the material that we use to make carbon dioxide that you need for stunning animals and also for making fizzy drinks is disrupted, of course, by the war. We used to produce a lot of carbon dioxide here ourselves, but guess what? The plant was shut down in 2022, and now that's something else we're dependent for. other countries on.
Why did it close down?
It's astonishing,
It
isn't
is. As ever, we always want to know what you think. You can send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the Newsroom, 9:30. The headlines this hour. Benjamin Netanyahu could speak to Lebanon's Prime Minister today, according to Israeli officials. The direct talks were first suggested by Donald Trump overnight, but Lebanon says it has no confirmation. The UK could face food shortages by the summer under a worst-case scenario linked to the Middle East conflict. Officials are warning disruption to supplies could impact items like meat and fresh produce if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. The UK economy has grown faster than expected, but experts warn the Middle East conflict could derail that progress. New figures show growth of 0.5% in February, the strongest monthly increase in over a year. In Ukraine, at least 15 people have been killed and more than 100 injured in a major Russian strike on cities across the country. A 12-year-old boy is among the victims after missiles and drone attacks. The government here is expanding plans to cut electricity bills for thousands of UK manufacturers. Ministers say the move will help firms cope with rising energy costs driven by the ongoing conflict in the Middle East. And the government is also launching a £500 million fund to support British artificial intelligence firms. Ministers say the new sovereign AI unit will help the UK compete globally in the race to develop new technologies. And social media bosses are being summoned to Downing Street to face questions over child safety. The Prime Minister says companies must step up or face tougher regulation. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So do you remember those immortal words from Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, just 2 years ago?
It comes to choices on tax. This government chooses to protect working people every single time.
Or the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, saying this.
We have been very clear that for working people, we are not going to increase their taxes. So that means we are not increasing income tax, national insurance or VAT.
Well, now the IMF, so praised by the Chancellor just 2 years ago, before she was Chancellor, of course, has accused her of raising taxes at the fastest pace in the world. Quite extraordinary, Andrew.
It really is. And they're not just raising taxes, they're not cutting spending either.
Yeah.
So public spending on welfare benefits in particular is soaring. And remember, only this week we had George Robertson, a former Labour Defence Secretary, former General Secretary of NATO, saying that the huge welfare bill was at the expense of the defence of the realm.
Yeah.
An extraordinary charge from a Labour politician.
There seems to be increasing consensus now that we've got to do something about the soaring cost of welfare and we have to spend more money on defence.
Yeah.
But still, nobody seems to have any idea of how to actually do this or to get those changes voted for by the public.
Yeah.
Because in polls, consistently, people do want lower taxes. Of course they do. But they also want more public spending. And those two things are irreconcilable. So how does any political party deliver that?
Exactly. And the IMF, putting the figures in layman's terms, forecast that what Labour is doing will amount to £130 billion of taxes, which will be £4,000 more per household. That's serious money.
It is. And I think the tax burden as a share of our GDP will be going up by 4.5% between 2024 and 2031, which is considerably more than any other country. I mean, France is the next closest, 1.7%. So a big difference.
It feels unnecessary. Let's talk to the Chief Economic Advisor at the Centre for Economic and Business Research, Vicky Price. Vicky Price, good morning to you. I can remember, I'm sure you can, how fond Rachel Reeves was of quoting the IMF at us when the Tories were in power, because the IMF is often very critical of the last Tory government raising taxes so much. But the IMF has really gone for her this week, saying the fastest rising tax bill in the Western world.
It is true, and of course we are now in the middle of a crisis where more money may need to be spent in all sorts of ways, in addition, of course, to defence. Because if the economy slows down, then there is an issue of how the government can come and support it. Loads of other countries are, in fact, interestingly enough, given that we are increasing our taxes, cutting taxes in a number of areas, such as for fuel, in order to encourage the economy while this crisis is going on. So the argument the government is making is that the room for manoeuvre, and actually the IMF says that too, isn't that great in terms of them being able to come and support the economy, despite the fact that, of course, taxes are indeed, as you're rightly saying, increasing at such a fast pace.
Now, the headline rates of income tax, of course, haven't changed for a number of years, and both main parties at the last election promised not to increase those. And yet we do have this stealth tax, don't we, whereby when the thresholds are frozen each year, so the personal tax allowance where you pay no tax, and then the ban before you pay a higher rate, it drags more and more people into higher rates of tax, and you get this squeezing effect. Can you explain how that is driving changes in behaviour and hardship for families?
Well, a number of families, in fact, millions of them in the last couple of years have been coming, in fact, for longer, because, of course, the freezing of the threshold happened under the previous Conservative government, under Rishi Sunak. So that freezing has meant that as wages have been going up, and over a period they have done, mainly because of the inflation that we had during the aftermath of the initial invasion of Russia in Ukraine, that has meant that as wages are rising, then the take is increasing, because many families are coming for the first time, or have been coming for the first time, many workers, into paying tax to begin with. They never did before, then of course they were pushed into it, and then at a higher rate as well. So the revenues of the government have been increasing, mainly those tax revenues, because of this. It is indeed the stealth tax that has done it. And of course, Rachel Reeves has said they were going to stop that by 2027, so it would be adjusted by inflation again. That, of course, has now been postponed, and we're not going to see any of that until the end of this Parliament.
And the worry for people watching and listening, Vicky Price, will be this IMF prediction. This is before we know the full impact of the war in Iran and the impact that's going to have on inflation. But we know that Andrew Bailey, the governor of the Bank of England, has said this week it will be profound. There will be a profound shock to inflation.
Well, absolutely. And with inflation going up, I mean, what the calculations are now, first of all, these tax increases that we've just been talking about, but also the fact that inflation is going to hit the population quite badly, whereas we're expecting it to be coming down, it's going to be going up instead. We're going to see real personal disposable incomes actually, and the average household seeing their incomes decline this year, whereas before we expected there would be an increase in 2026. So it's all compounding, if you like. The sort of pain that a number of people are feeling anyway in terms of having to pay higher taxes. At least there was a prospect of an improvement in living standards. Well, that seems to be now disappearing. And if interest rates do not come down, in fact go up, as it's possible, but the governor of the Bank of England is trying to calm things down a bit by saying we don't necessarily have to increase interest rates just because inflation may go up for a bit. But if interest rates do not come down as expected, and you see that in the mortgage market, then of course the pain would be added.
Vicky, it seems clear now that our tax rates are providing a clear disincentive to work harder, to gain promotions. And some people are facing tax rates of 60 or 70% if they're paying student loan, for example, or they're having benefits withdrawal or child benefit withdrawn. I mean, nobody gets a promotion if they're going to lose 75 pence in every pound to the government. So what can the government do? Because if they do try and cut taxes now, then people like the IMF or bondholders will start to get worried that the UK can't pay its bills. But at the same time, there seems to be a reluctance to cut the benefits bill. I mean, the government really is stuck.
I'm afraid it is stuck. Of course, they are talking about changing the rules for the benefit system. So maybe some impact will be there in terms particularly of mental health issues, in terms of the benefits that are allocated to that. So we'll see how it develops. But in reality, we are going to be still spending an awful lot more over the next few years on benefits, and people are now focusing once again on whether triple lock needs to go or other. But actually, in terms of pension payments in the UK, we're way below as a percentage of GDP than most countries in Europe, which is interesting just to remember that one. But yes, that is a big issue in terms of tax. margins sort of becoming so big. So the marginal tax rate over 100,000 is indeed, 60, 70%, depending on who you are and the types of benefits that you are getting anyway. So people are trying not to get to that point. And as we know, even if you're trying to not take your salary, so have postponement of any salary increase or seeing it being paid as a contribution to your pensions, that has also been attacked by the government. So what we're going to be seeing is that a lot more people will not be able to do that and will come into this £100,000. For example, you mentioned students, of course, that's a different issue. And there will be reluctance to work 5 days a week and also get the promotion that perhaps you wanted to have. So they act as a disincentive, there's no doubt about that. That can be changed. Whether the government will want to do that is a different question, because, of course, it's relying on collecting that revenue.
Yeah, and of course we only discovered yesterday, Vicky Price, didn't we, that 63,000 more people in 1 month went on universal credit. There's now more than 8 million people on universal credit, 1 in 8 of us. Again, I would argue that's a figure that is soon going to be unsustainable.
Well, and the worrying thing, of course, is that a lot of these people are in work, which means that they are not getting enough to allow them to get by, really.
Wouldn't the answer to that be to cut taxes?
Yes.
And then people wouldn't be paying tax on their earned income and then taking money back in benefits to top up on a low income?
Well, there are quite a lot of economists who seem to think that just lowering taxes is going to do the trick. Now, it's not necessarily going to be the case, depends on the structure of your economy, but there is some merit in that argument.
Vicky Price, thank you so much for your time this morning. We've got an interesting comment from a viewer here, Andrew, on gbnews.com/your say. Auntie Madge says, primarily our GDP only goes up because the government and the public borrow to mitigate the shortfall in the balance of payments. In other words, our GDP only goes up because of inflation each year. We're not actually getting any richer. The economy only grows because we print so much money.
And of course, if interest rates do go up, which they might, because of the shock to this system caused by the war in Iran, the cost of servicing the national debt, even higher. What are we in debt? 2 trillion? 2.5 trillion?
Yes, it's approaching 100% of our GDP, isn't it? But interestingly, a lot of Western countries are in a similar boat, but the way that we borrowed the money...
The IMF is saying it quite clearly.
That's right.
We are worse. It said yesterday, and she's over there at the moment, ironically, the Chancellor, it said the IMF economy would be... Our economy were the worst impacted by Iran because of how much reliance on importing gas. And now they're telling us the fastest rising tax burden in the world.
I mean, other countries do still have higher tax, but the French, for example, pay a lot more tax. But you could argue their infrastructure and their health system is a lot better, so maybe it's worth it.
You might not mind so much these high taxes if things worked. Nothing works.
Got what you paid for. Well, still ahead, find out why Sir Keir Starmer threw his toys out the pram at Prime Minister's questions yesterday when he was confronted by Sir Lindsay Hoyle.
Up next, though, we'll fill you on why protests erupted overnight in Epsom and riot police were deployed. But first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. If you're heading away over the next few days, it is turning drier than it has been across the Mediterranean. Still very warm in the Canaries as well. A little bit cooler for Madeira, just 16 degrees on Friday. Plenty of sunshine across Spain into southern France as well. Italy starting to see some drier weather, and the more unsettled weather is finally pushing away to the east. So for Greece and Croatia, it will become a little bit drier into the weekend and very warm in Tenerife too. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News Bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you. Bulletins on GB News,
the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
And I like him so much. He was the best coach that I worked with. So he's a coach that will improve the players 100%. Will give what the players needed. So I'm very happy to see him with Tottenham because I love the club and I know he's the right one to be there.
These players, they have to buy in to what he says, and quickly, because there's only 7 games left. So do you think that's going to be the case?
I think the players will feel the passion and will understand him quickly, and he will adapt a little bit because it's just 7 games. I think, okay, from the next year, he will have more time to put his ideas and to help improve the players and with more time. So now...
Sorry, just a quick. What is he like though as a character? He seems a very fiery character, Sandro.
Yeah. He is. He's a. You're going to hear his voice around the training ground. You're going to, because he's a passionate guy. He loves football. He does everything. He watches football 24 hours. And well, it's good to have someone that loves the game like him at our club, and I'm sure the fans will love him because the fans will see, the fans will understand how deserved he is.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 9 minutes to 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
There were protests in Epsom in Surrey yesterday after several men allegedly attacked a woman in the early hours of Saturday morning.
Well, riot police were deployed after a large crowd gathered in the town centre.
And police are under pressure to release descriptions of the suspects and CCTV footage of the incident. We're joined by GB News national reporter Will Godley. Will.
Well, yeah, these protesters yesterday demanding to see the CCTV that the police have of this alleged incident, and also wanting descriptions of the suspects that the police have at the moment. The police, though, have said they do not have this information yet to release. Their exact wording: we do not have sufficient information to release the descriptions of the suspects at this stage. Unfortunately, they have said, though, they've been reviewing CCTV footage from the route of the victim took as well, to build a picture, and also interviewing key witnesses and people who were nearby at the time. Now, this all happened after the police were alerted to reports on, very early on Saturday morning between 2 and 4 a.m. that a woman in her 20s had been raped by a group of men, and police have been investigating that ever since the early hours of Saturday morning. And clearly the lack of information that the police have so far garnered on this case is what's led to these protests. It's unclear how many people protesting yesterday were locals and how many were from elsewhere. The gathering was promoted online by the activist Danny Tomo, but there was one resident, an Epsom resident there, who went by the name of Pete, who said he was a resident and said at present many women and girls in Epsom feel uncertain about their safety. And police said the protests yesterday blocked roads, causing disruption for motorists, and also reports yesterday say protesters were picking up plant pots that lined the street and chucking them at police officers, and also cones and bottles as well. Now, this all ended about 8 p.m. yesterday, and we have had a statement from the police. They've said they respect the right to lawful protest and will facilitate it wherever possible, but they've also said criminal offences and public disorder will not be tolerated, and we will always take robust action against anyone who commits a criminal offence, warning against further protests if they are to be criminal activity going on. The local MP has also said behaviour such as damaging police vehicles, blocking key roads and intimidating officers is completely unacceptable, wanting people to let police do their job.
Absolutely right, Will.
Thank you, Will Godley, for that report. Well, still ahead on Britain's Newsroom, we're being told to be braced for food shortages. We'll tell you why.
This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Another day of sunshine and showers, though it's not going to be quite as wet for most of us, and it will feel relatively warm in the sunshine. The best of the sunshine through this morning for many southern areas. Cloud will thicken a little bit through this afternoon, and there is a risk of showers across many southern counties. Parts of northern England could see the odd shower, but it's parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, where we're most likely to get caught out in one of those showers. Some of these could be quite heavy across northern areas, but not quite as heavy as recent days. Not feeling too bad in the sunshine, temperatures climbing to the high teens for some of us, but for most of us, around average 14 or 15 degrees today. A cloudy night to come for many of us, but before then we will see some clearer skies across the far north of Scotland, but we do continue to hold on to that shower risk through much of the day. A mild night as well. Lots of cloud and some light rain across Northern Ireland through this evening. That will push into parts of Wales, some areas of central England too. Many southern counties seeing quite a lot of cloud around. There's a risk of mist and fog as well across many southern areas, so it's going to be quite a murky night overnight tonight, but a mild one. We've got southerly winds bringing in that mild air, but also this southerly winds will be wrapped around an area of low pressure, which brings a more unsettled day on Friday. So quite a lot of cloud to start the day on Friday. Temperatures around 9 to 11 degrees, relatively mild for the time of year. Pretty similar to yesterday morning, in fact. And then this band of rain that pushes eastwards across the country through the day. It brings a spell of wet weather through the middle of the day. Now, either side of that, there will be some sunshine across the southeast and the southwest through the afternoon, and it will feel relatively warm in that sunshine. Again, temperatures climbing towards the high teens in the south and east, but it's going to feel a lot fresher with strong winds further north and west.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for all of you who listen to GB News Radio.
Whether you're at home or on the go, you're making us Britain's news channel and Britain's radio station.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the M8 eastbound, lanes are restricted between junction 12 and junction 11 after a fluid spill. On the A40 northbound from Monmouth towards the Dixton roundabout, an accident has closed a lane. On the M1 southbound between junction 42 and junction 41 near Leeds, a crash is shutting 3 of 4 lanes, with delays of around 15 minutes. And on the trains, London North Western Railway has reduced services between Bletchley and Bedford, while Thameslink has disruption between London St Pancras International and Kentish Town. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From cold mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Thursday the 16th of April. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
It's a tax tsunami. The International Monetary Fund, no less, calls out our Chancellor for raising taxes in Britain at the fastest rate anywhere in the world. Remember this just 2 years ago from Rachel Reeves.
It comes to choices on tax. This government chooses to protect working people every single time.
And will there be summer shortages? Britain could face a fresh food crunch with chicken and pork supplies under threat due to the Strait of Hormuz blockade.
And there's going to be a social media showdown today. The Prime Minister, just hours after Labour MPs voted to allow under 16-year-olds access to social media, he's hauling in social media bosses to Downing Street to demand tougher child protection online. Is there not a contradiction here?
I'm absolutely clear in my mind we need to do more. We're not protecting children enough. So the question for me is not whether we do something, we are going to do something.
And to breaking news this morning, Blackpool South MP Chris Webb tells GB News the Metropole Hotel will no longer be used to house illegal migrants.
This will close within 3 months. The Home Office are already engaging now with Britannia and with Serco to rehouse these people elsewhere in the country.
Well, the return of the Metropole Hotel will certainly be welcomed by people in Blackpool, but Britannia Hotel, the Metropole's owners, are being urged to properly redevelop the hotel now, and even then, there's no guarantee that the public will want to go back to that hotel.
We know that Britain's roads have been plagued for far too long with potholes, and so we want to take action and get these fixed.
Couldn't really make this up. A pothole has taken the Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander's Mini Cooper off the road in Oxfordshire. Some people might say that's karma.
And a win for those with ginger hair. Well, the scientists at Harvard say natural selection favours redheads, and it may have grown more common because it was beneficial 4,000 years ago. Well, in a few moments, Andrew, we're going to be talking to Suella Braverman, who now, of course, is a Reform MP, and she has the education brief. She's responsible for their education policy. We're going to be talking about whether or not kids should be banned from social media.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister is hauling in the social media bosses today to talk to them about that. He's going to lay the law down. You've got to do something about it. So that will be an interesting debate to have with Suella, because there was that vote in the Commons yesterday, and Labour MPs defied a Tory move to ban, to restrict social media to kids under the age of 16.
So the Australians passed a law a few months ago banning children from under 16s, and the government has said they want to wait and see how it works before they legislate. But endless consultations is not really what parents are looking for. They want some help now.
Well, every day more and more children are getting infected by some of this terrible stuff they see on social media. Tell us what you think. As always, send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just after 10 o'clock, the top story this hour, Israeli and Lebanese leaders could hold direct talks today, according to reports from Israeli officials. Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to speak with Lebanon's president, a move first suggested by Donald Trump overnight. But the situation remains unclear. Officials in Lebanon say they have no confirmation that any talks are scheduled. Well, that comes as there is a warning here at home that the UK could face shortages by the summer under a worst-case scenario linked to the Middle East conflict. Officials say they are planning for potential disruption to carbon dioxide supplies, which is a key component in food production and preservation. That could impact items like meat and fresh produce if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Ministers, though, stress this is a contingency planning process at the moment, not a prediction, and say there is no immediate risk to food supplies. The government is also expanding plans to cut electricity bills for thousands of UK manufacturers. Around 10,000 firms are now expected to benefit under a scheme aimed at reducing costs and supporting key industries. Ministers say the move will help businesses compete and protect jobs as energy prices are still rising following instability in the Middle East. Well, Sir Keir Starmer has told social media bosses this morning that restricting access for children may be preferable to a world where harm is the price of participation. He has hauled senior figures to Downing Street from companies including TikTok, Meta and Google, warning the risks facing young users can't go on like this. The Prime Minister is pressing firms to take greater responsibility to a new report. Inspectors say cases are rising sharply, with officers overwhelmed and children waiting too long to be safeguarded. They warn forces lack the training, the technology and staffing that's needed, with some investigators handling dozens of cases at the same time. The government says it is investing in new policing and new technology and will strengthen laws to protect children online. The government is launching a £500 million fund to support British artificial intelligence firms. The new so-called sovereign AI unit will invest in companies and give access to computing power, research and government contracts. Ministers say it marks a shift towards long-term support for the sector as the UK looks to compete globally in AI development. The move comes after concerns over investment following delays to a major data centre project. And patients are being warned about fake weight loss jabs being sold online. Pharmacies say criminals are cloning legitimate websites and social media accounts to sell counterfeit medication. A survey suggests 1 in 10 online pharmacies has been targeted. Experts warn the drugs could be unsafe and are calling for stronger action from regulators and social media companies. Those are the 10 o'clock headlines. I'll be back with you shortly. Now, though, it's over to Andrew and Miriam.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Miriam and Andrew. Let's see what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say, talking about food shortages. We'll be covering that again later in the programme. David says, if our farmers had been allowed to keep their land and grow what they wanted, we wouldn't be having a food shortage.
That's, of course, all the wilding that they have to do, or rewilding that
we
they
get paid for planting meadows.
Yeah, and a lot of this was rubbish that came out of the EU, which I rather hope would stop when we left the EU.
Yes, we had the opportunity.
But we didn't take it.
Yes, we spent it on meadow flowers instead. Carol says, Heidi Alexander, that's the Transport Secretary, her car story. If it's happened to an MP, she's got a pothole, has damaged her car, then I'm sure the road will be quickly repaired. Let's see. And Doz says, the roads are deadly for bikes and motorbikes. There's loads to look out for when riding, as it is, without looking out for potholes too.
I used to come here for a while on the back of a motorbike, and part of one of the great skills of the motorbike rider was avoiding potholes, sometimes the size of moon craters.
Yeah. Have you got any photos of you on the back of a motorbike?
I've got one. I might show it to you.
That sounds interesting.
Yes.
You don't ride it anymore then?
No, I don't. No.
You've retired it?
And I've never driven a motorbike myself, but I was pillion passenger. It's a very quick way to get around.
Well, yes, and with the price of fuel, they might become more popular because they're a lot cheaper to run, aren't they?
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, remember when our Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, said this barely 2 years ago?
When it comes to choices on tax, this government chooses to protect working people every single time.
Was Keir Starmer, before he was Prime Minister, saying this?
We have been very clear that for working people, we are not going to increase their taxes. So that means we are not increasing income tax, national insurance or VAT.
Well, now the Chancellor's beloved IMF is accusing her of raising taxes at the fastest pace in the world.
And, of course, the Chancellor is currently in Washington to meet the IMF. We're going to talk now to Suella Braverman, who is the Reform UK spokesperson for education. Suella Braverman, good morning to you. The Telegraph headline says it all. Family tax bills rise £4,000 under Rachel Reeves.
It says it all, doesn't it? And it's a damning indictment of the state of the economy, but more importantly, the devastating decisions made by this Labour Chancellor. And those decisions are frankly crippling working families. And I've lost count, actually, in my own constituency of Fareham and Waterlooville, of the number of householders, small businesses, regular people, workers, the white van man, the local hairdresser on the high street, who are really struggling to make ends meet because largely of the rise in national insurance, the above inflation increase to the minimum wage, and more bureaucracy and cost coming down from this government.
What's your view on the freezing of the tax threshold, Suella? Because obviously this was a policy of the last government. It's been called a stealth tax. It steadily increases the Treasury's revenue without looking like the government's putting up any tax. Would a reform government, for example, raise the thresholds back to where they were when they were implemented?
Well, I'm not going to announce economic policy on behalf of Reform here. It all depends on the fiscal situation later. And we've already announced a package of really helpful tax cuts on reversing the fuel duty and cutting the VAT and reversing the NI rise on pubs and certain aspects of hospitality. But there's no doubt about it that the frozen thresholds since about 2020 have effectively been a stealth tax because people are now being caught in a higher tax bracket than was previously intended. And millions of people like police officers, nurses, teachers are now paying the higher rate of tax when that was never intended.
And, of course, also, Suella, a lot of pensioners are going to be dragged into tax for the first time too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, pensioner poverty, again, is something that a lot of people don't really appreciate because there's a misguided perception, I'm afraid, amongst many in government and many of those running this country that pensioners are somehow sitting on huge pots of wealth and enjoying their saga cruises and their freedom passes. That's not the story of a large proportion of pensioners. Many pensioners have to choose between heating and eating. For example, in recent years, we've seen the cuts to the winter fuel allowance being really punitive to many pensioners who I know personally, actually, around the country.
But Suella, isn't that a brilliant argument for better targeting? Because you're absolutely right. There's a proportion of pensioners who are living very frugally, but there's a huge other group of pensioners that are extremely wealthy and much wealthier than any of the younger generation. 1 in 4, for example, are millionaires. Aren't you making an argument for much, much better targeting of old age benefits so that those who genuinely are poor can live better lives, but those who are extremely wealthy are not being funded by working age taxpayers who are often much poorer?
Well, I think, listen, when we look at pensioners, there's a whole cohort of people who've worked diligently, responsibly for decades, many of them serving their country in many, many different roles. They've been frugal, as you say, they've saved their money. And I'm not willing to look pensioners in the eye and say, well, we're going to penalise you because we need to pay for the millions of Brits on out-of-work welfare right now, or the net zero subsidies, which are frankly madness right now. I think pensioners deserve dignity, and they are people who have worked, have contributed to the system and deserve to be recompensed properly.
Do you think
I do agree with the point.
Do you think that young people on
there are pensioners and there are pensioners?
Yes, but do you think that young people on minimum wage, let's say, who are facing rents of say £1,000 a month, who are having to pay back student loans that perhaps they borrowed unfairly, do you think that they should be paying tax for a state pension for somebody, let's say, with £1 million house and multiple other private incomes? Do you think that is a fair transfer of wealth?
But I don't think that's the binary choice necessarily.
Well, it is if you
agree
don't
that young
means
people-
test state benefits, isn't it? That is the choice if you don't means test.
What I would say is I don't think, I think that the situation for young people is deplorable right now. As you set out very clearly, job prospects are very poor. Graduate unemployment is at an unprecedented high, 700,000 graduates unemployed. Average student debt is £50,000. It's almost impossible for someone in their 20s to get onto the housing ladder these days, even in their 30s, I'm afraid, now more and more and often. So young people are getting a raw deal, definitely, from the economy, and they need to be supported. Does that mean rebalancing in that sense? I'm not necessarily sure that's the binary choice. What we do need to do is ensure more young people avoid the debt trap of student loans. I'm very interested in why we have quite so many young people being funneled into a system which is frankly not working. By that I mean mediocre universities, too many mediocre universities, offering mediocre university courses at a £50,000 price tag, crippling young people with debt, and not giving them the job prospects. It's far better for many more young people to avoid that debt trap, take up an apprenticeship at 18, start working, start earning, learning a skill, and moving on in their life. That's how I think we empower the next generation to have personal responsibility and achieve their aspiration.
Can I take you back to pensions? Because quite a significant piece in The Spectator today. It's been authored by Michael Gove, who was, of course, a cabinet colleague of yours when you were a Conservative MP and he was in the Conservative cabinet. And it's arguing that the triple lock, which the Tories support and you support, should be abandoned. And just to remind people, the triple lock is that pensions should rise every April, either in line with wage inflation, price inflation, or a minimum of 2.5%. So Michael Gove has gone out on a limb there as a Tory, saying the triple lock should go. You don't agree with that?
I think that's very concerning. I support the triple lock, and Reform has maintained its commitment to it in the next Parliament. And again, what I would say to that is it is affordable if we make the right choices with our public spending. Our welfare bill is out of control. We're spending more on welfare than we are on education and schools. That is not right, and we've got too many people claiming out of work benefits. Our bill for illegal migrants is out of control. We're spending £6 to £7 million a day on asylum seekers. That needs to be brought down. We're spending tens of billions of pounds on carbon capture schemes and solar panels and heat pumps. The net zero burden crippling businesses and, frankly, the taxpayer has to be brought down. And I think once we've brought down those profligate expenses right now, then we can start talking about how we rebalance some of our broader welfare spending. But those are the big mistakes right now, and if we get those under control, then the economy will be in a much better state.
Suella, while we've got you, seeing as you've got the education brief, can I ask how Reform MPs voted last night on the Conservatives' amendment to ban social media for under 16s?
I think we abstained. The reason is we support a ban on phones in schools. Right now, and I was in the debate yesterday myself, questioning the minister, the situation is unacceptable. There is non-statutory guidance which has been issued by the government requesting, urging the schools to remove smartphones from schools. We disagree with that. That needs to be law. There's a lot of evidence of how smartphones inhibit children's learning in schools. They are a distraction. There's a causative connection to mental health problems. They are damaging. And if we make it law for teachers to abide by, I think we will have much better results in our schools. And the evidence so far is many schools are not adhering to the non-statutory guidance. So we very much oppose the government's position and are urging them to implement a law which bans phones in schools.
All right, that's Suella Braverman, who is Reform UK's education spokesman. As we were speaking, I think the social media bosses were photographed going into number 10 to talk to the Prime Minister.
Yes, is he going to give them a ticking off?
He's going to give them a ticking off, even though his MPs, the government, voted yesterday to not to ban social media for kids under 16.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting to see what happens in Australia.
That's right.
Make a decision, man.
I know. Consultation after consultation. Of course, the debate about phones in schools, I think most people would absolutely agree there's no place for phones in schools. But, of course, whether or not children should have access to these platforms is a different question
Do you know
altogether.
When I was growing up, the debate was should kids be able to take calculators into the classroom? How things have changed.
Exactly. Well, the American...
You could do your percentages on the calculator.
Yes.
But they used to say to you in exams, yeah, but don't use the calculator for the percentages. I mean...
As if, yes, you're sat there with the calculator.
Ridiculous.
Who's going to resist that temptation? Now they have exams that are calculator papers and they have non-calculator papers, which is much more sensible.
As always, want to hear from you. Tell us what you think. But first, we've got the Great British giveaway. The clock is ticking. You can win £25,000 tax-free cash and that lovely 4-berth motorhome. It's worth £92,000.
Here's what you need to win it.
Time is ticking on your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this stylish home from home comes with all of the features you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £67,000. Alloy wheels, solar panel and pop-top bunks for an optional sleeping area. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up next, it's been a year since the gender ruling was declared, but not everyone is following it.
We'll be going through that and more with Karen Malone and Nigel Nelson, our panellists today. Battle lines are already drawn. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
But in the meantime, a Welsh secondary school is scrapping skirts in the name of equality, with all pupils now required to wear trousers.
They say it saves money and reflects modern values, but some parents call it wasteful, sparking a wider row over gender-neutral uniforms in schools.
Well, in a letter announcing the decision to parents, the school said a single streamlined uniform reduces pressure on families, removes unnecessary distractions and ensures every pupil can feel comfortable and confident. This is a positive step forward for Brainteg, the school, simpler for parents and carers, more practical for pupils and fully in keeping with inclusive values we stand for.
Oh, just stick your inclusivity, will you? If a girl wants to wear a skirt or a boy wants to wear a skirt for school, let them.
Right, this is the thing.
What's wrong with it?
This is... The thing, they're making this sound like it's a step forward for equality. Girls weren't forbidden from wearing trousers. No. Girls were allowed to wear trousers. Girls had a choice. In the world I grew up in, choice is a good thing.
Ah, not if you're a girl. This is where you went wrong, because you are a boy.
Am I?
So, yeah, well...
Wow. Well, does Keir Starmer think?
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
We know what Keir Starmer thinks. But basically, this is done in the name of equality for young women by taking away their right to wear a skirt.
It's completely nuts.
How does that make sense?
The equal thing here is to allow the girls, frankly, all the pupils, to choose. There are no words for this. I don't understand how this is supposed to help anyone. It's going against tradition as well, which is not particularly
This is Good Afternoon, Britain. It's GB News.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 24 minutes past 10. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
And we've got broadcaster Karen Malone here and GB News senior political commentator Nigel Nelson in the studio.
Welcome to you both. Hello. Shall we start with the Daily Mail front page? Labour's shameful betrayal of women. This is a reference to the Supreme Court ruling last year, gender ruling, that men are men and women are women, surprise, surprise, and yet none of the public guidance has changed yet, Nigel. Why not?
Well, I mean, it takes time to get it sorted out.
We've had quite a lot of time.
They have had a year, and so the Supreme Court judgment was absolutely right. I mean, I do support trans rights, but I think it's absolutely right that biological women should have their own space. So they got that bit right. They didn't change the Gender Recognition Act, so people can still transition without surgery or as long as they meet certain conditions. I can imagine it does take a while if you've got two loos and you're trying to sort out which way of doing it. You're sorting out with
It takes no time at all, Nigel. This is nonsense.
It's Bridget Phillipson. Let's remind you, she's not just the educator, she's the Equalities Minister, and she's done
and
nothing.
she's had the AHRC's paperwork and its ruling on her desk for a year, and she has not implemented it. And the reason she hasn't is because she doesn't agree with it. She was actually told off by a judge earlier this year, but for instructing a government lawyer to actually allow trans women into women's spaces. And the judge actually rebuked her and said, "You're trying to rewrite the ruling. You can't do that."
Yeah, a government that's been driven by lawyers from day one.
And this is amazing. I'm amazed the BBC did this investigation this week, which is it's not their sort of investigation. However, they did it, and they found that 94% of public bodies are not or haven't got separate facilities for
94%.
94% of
haven't got separate. Meaning that they don't ban trans women from it, or that they don't have separate sex toilets.
Exactly. They're still allowing trans women to use women's toilets. But it isn't just about toilets. It's not just about toilets and changing rooms. It's about hospital wards. It's about prisons. It's about sport.
Well, hang on, just on the prisons thing. I mean, there is even the Reform Prisons Advisor, who was a former governor. What she says is that should be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Well, no, not when you realise that the government's own figures say the 245 trans females in prison, of the 245 that are in prison, 62% of them are there having committed a sexual offence. So it shouldn't be a case-by-case. It should be a blanket ban on this. It's ridiculous.
Isn't this about the fact, Nigel, that Bridget Phillipson's a very ambitious woman? She does not want to alienate the left of the Labour Party, which is very passionately in favour of trans rights and do not agree with the Supreme Court ruling. Isn't that what this is about? This is politics here before issues.
Well, I mean, I don't think that, because, I mean, as a Secretary of State, she has to go along with the Supreme Court ruling.
Well, why hasn't she then?
It was perfectly clear.
Why hasn't she then?
I mean, okay, let's just go back
to... had a year.
Let's take Lose again.
No, she hasn't published it. She hasn't published anything since the ruling of the Supreme Court.
And you know what her excuse is now? Is that because we're in purdah and she can't publish it before the elections. I mean, that's just ludicrous.
But if you're taking Lose as an example, what a body would have to do is change them ideally into unisex loos, so either gender could use them, or gender neutral. At the Home Office, they have actually a gender neutral.
Nigel, you change a sign on the door. That's all you do. You go unisex, you go males, you go females. You don't really have to change the toilets unless they're urinals.
Why does that mean the Secretary of State cannot publish a rule?
The guidance, because
why can't she do
she's
that?
not happy with it.
Because they're working out the guidance, and I appreciate she's taking too long.
They're not working. The guidance has been given to them by the Equalities Commission. They're not working it out. It's been given to them.
It's a law.
And it's the law.
Do you think, though, there's is also a case that those who are in charge of public bodies ought to have more courage and just implement what is common sense and the law.
But they're also enthralled to the Trans Brigade as well. I mean, in this report, in this BBC report, which is very good, let me correct what I said before, to 94% of NHS trust.
Right, okay.
Haven't got to say. No, but what this report actually says, that even today, even after the Darlington nurses are still having to share changing rooms with trans women. The females in these hospitals are terrified to complain because they will be slated as transphobic. Now, if there's still this culture of fear...
That's what the court case was about.
Yes, of course it was, but why are women still...
What the Supreme Court ruled was that nobody could be disciplined for complaining that they were changing in a changing room with somebody of a different sex.
Now, the law's not being adhered to. That's why women are still scared to complain. So if they complain, they're going to get hounded. We know this is women who have just been interviewed in recent weeks.
Well, if they're hounded, it's illegally hounded because they have every right to say...
But they don't, they don't think they're getting any support from the Woman Secretary of State who's supposed to be in charge of all this.
Or from the government.
But the law at least is there. So, I mean, we go back to the nurse who in Scotland who was disciplined after she complained that she was changing in the same place as a trans doctor. That could not happen now under the law. So if anyone is trying
But it is happening. This is the point. The whole point of this story... The whole point of this story is that it is happening in spite of the law, that NHS trusts are ignoring the law, and they are being supported in ignoring the law by government ministers.
The next question, I suppose, will be, let's say the government does produce guidance and it becomes clear that men must use male toilets, women must use female toilets. Who then is responsible for policing it? So let's say, Carol, that a man dressed as a woman, after the guidance is in place, tries to enter a female toilet. Whose responsibility is it to stop him? Is it local officials? Is it women who are already in the toilet? It's a difficult question.
Hence why the guidance is...
It's a question that Claire Coutinho, the MP, raised today, exactly that question. She said, who is policing this now? Nobody. So that there is no one to look after these women, these biological women who have got complaints to make. There's no one there to stop them.
And isn't it the case, Nigel, though, that in the past, before trans ideology took off, and there are very, very few men who went out in public dressed as women, that if a man had tried to enter the women's loos in previous times, other men would have stopped him. I'm not sure they would now.
I'm sure they wouldn't now. And I think
they'd probably be arrested.
That here is an example of where it becomes difficult. Who is actually going to police it? I mean, people aren't even stopping shoplifters in supermarkets. So would you stop somebody going into a loo? Would you want to get into an altercation about that?
The thing is, I would, but I'm not like there's a lot of other women who would be frightened to do that because of the law.
Well, I probably would if, for example, I was with my daughter. Right. But if it, I have had that experience where I have been in a women's toilet on my own, and a man has walked in there dressed as a woman, and I just left because, why would you as a woman?
You were driven out of the woman's space.
Yeah, well, why would you as a woman risk staying? Of course, he probably had no malign intentions at all, but that's not the point, is it?
It's not the point.
You're going to take yourself out of risk.
Show how difficult this guidance is to come up with.
Well, I don't think the guidance is... Yes, I think that is a very good point. Society has changed so much since when people just accepted that it was society that policed this. I agree. I don't think it's actually going to be easy to enforce, even though it's blooming obvious what the guidance should be.
But it isn't just toilets as well, because to be honest, I'm not that bothered if a bloke comes in the toilet. What I am bothered about is if a trans woman comes into my changing room. I am bothered about that. And there was a bloke I was in one the other day, a trans woman came in, and I just said, you're not supposed to be here. And
how did they react?
Yeah. Well, the shop person, the shop assistant, looked horrified, and the trans woman walked out, did not look very happy. But it's not I shouldn't have to do that. The shop itself should say, but maybe they're frightened to confront a trans woman. I don't know, but they shouldn't be. The law should be square behind them, and it isn't currently.
She has to get on with it, Bridget.
She really does.
She does. Well, we need to read a statement from the government.
That's a pleasure for you, Maria.
Andrew loves these things. We have always supported the protection of single-sex spaces based on biological sex. The Supreme Court's ruling last year brings clarity for women and service providers.
But no explanation as to why there's been no response from the Secretary of State.
Indeed. Well, thank you to our panel. We'll see you again in an hour. But first of all, we've got your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. 10:30, the headlines this hour. Benjamin Netanyahu could speak with Lebanon's president today, according to Israeli officials. The direct talks first suggested by Donald Trump overnight, but Lebanon has said it has no confirmation. Meanwhile, here in the UK, we could be facing food shortages by the summer under a worst-case scenario linked to the Middle East conflict. Officials are warning disruption to supplies could impact items like meat and fresh produce if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. The UK economy has grown faster than expected, but experts are warning the Middle East conflict could derail that progress. New figures show growth of 0.5% in February, the strongest monthly increase in over a year. The government is also expanding plans to cut electricity bills for thousands of UK manufacturers. Ministers say the move will help firms cope with rising energy costs driven by the conflict in the Middle East. This morning, social media bosses have been summoned to Downing Street to face questions over child safety. The Prime Minister has told them their companies must step up or face tougher regulation. And the government is launching a £500 million fund to support British artificial intelligence firms. Ministers say the new sovereign AI unit will help the UK compete globally in the race to develop new technologies. Those are the latest headlines for now. A full roundup at 11.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, up next, the Blackpool South Labour MP Chris Webb tells GB News the Metropolitan Hotel, which I've been to many times in Blackpool, will no longer be used to house illegal migrants.
This will close within 3 months. The Home Office are already engaging now with Britannia and with Serco to rehouse these people elsewhere in the country.
But we're asking, where will they be moved to? You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Another day of sunshine and showers, though it's not going to be quite as wet for most of us, and it will feel relatively warm in the sunshine. The best of the sunshine through this morning for many southern areas. Cloud will thicken a little bit through this afternoon, and there is a risk of showers across many southern counties. Parts of northern England could see the odd shower, but it's parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland where we're most likely to get caught out in one of those showers. Some of these could be quite heavy across northern areas, but not quite as heavy as recent days. Not feeling too bad in the sunshine, temperatures climbing to the high teens for some of us, but for most of us, around average 14 or 15 degrees today. A cloudy night to come for many of us, but before then we will see some clearer skies across the far north of Scotland, but we do continue to hold on to that shower risk through much of the day. A mild night as well. Lots of cloud and some light rain across Northern Ireland through this evening. That will push into parts of Wales, some areas of central England too. Many southern counties seeing quite a lot of cloud around. There's a risk of mist and fog as well across many southern areas, so it's going to be quite a murky night overnight tonight, but a mild one. We've got southerly winds bringing in that mild air, but also this southerly winds will be wrapped around an area of low pressure, which brings a more unsettled day on Friday. So quite a lot of cloud to start the day on Friday. Temperatures around 9 to 11 degrees, relatively mild for the time of year. Pretty similar to yesterday morning, in fact. And then this band of rain that pushes eastwards across the country through the day. It brings a spell of wet weather through the middle of the day. Now, either side of that, there will be some sunshine across the southeast and the southwest through the afternoon, and it will feel relatively warm in that sunshine again. Temperatures climbing towards the high teens in the south and east, but it's going to feel a lot fresher with strong winds further north and west.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. Take care on the M90 Friarton Bridge due to high winds. Leeds M1 southbound between junction 42 and 41 has a crash closing 2 lanes, with 10-minute delays easing by 11:45. On the M25 clockwise between junction 29 and 30, a broken-down vehicle shuts 2 lanes, causing 20-minute hold-ups, easing by 11:30. The M2 westbound between Junction 3 and 2 has an accident causing hour-long delays, easing by 11:30. And on the trains, London North Western Railway services are reduced between Milton Keynes and Bedford, and South Western Railway faces disruption between Staines and Windsor. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's 22 minutes to 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
Now, GB News has got an exclusive story here. The Metropole Hotel in Blackpool, it will become the 12th asylum hotel to close.
Well, the announcement follows confirmation from the Home Office that 11 hotels have already been returned to local communities as part of the government's wider plan to phase out the use of such accommodation by 2029.
Mind you, we pointed out yesterday on this programme that actually one hotel that they've closed, 25 asylum seekers have ended up in a very nice village in Tonbridge in Kent.
It's just displacement, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Well...
Anyway, here's what the Blackpool South MP Chris Webb told GB News this morning.
We've been given notice. This will close within 3 months. The Home Office are already engaging now with Britannia and with Serco to rehouse these people elsewhere in the country into more suitable accommodation, other hotels and military bases. But I can say now that Blackpool will no longer have an asylum hotel come July.
Well, we're now joined by GB News' Home and Security Editor, Mark White. Mark, good morning. Thank you for joining us. The government will paint this as a big victory, part of their plan to close all asylum hotels by the next election. Do you think it's a victory?
Well, it's certainly proof that they are on the path to trying to end the use of asylum seeker hotels. But as you and Andrew were just pointing out, it is displacement. They are just moving them elsewhere in the country and often to locations that are completely unsuitable to house these young men without any kind of security arrangements around the accommodation that they'll be living in, because they'll just be living, for the most part, in local houses around that area. GB News was the first to expose the scandal of the Metropole Hotel, actually. The fact that homeless rough sleepers were having to camp down within metres of this iconic Blackpool hotel, while those who'd broken into the country were living in comparative luxury. This is what I found, actually, when I was there back in 2022. Just take a look at some of what I found. It's illumination season in Blackpool, but amidst the bright lights, there's a darker side to this tourist town. Down at street level, in the shadows, are Blackpool's forgotten. The homeless and the vulnerable are growing increasingly resentful, as one of the town's historic hotels plays host to more than 300 Channel migrants, just yards from where they're forced to sleep rough on the streets.
I'm invisible. I am literally invisible. People walk past. They don't even see you now.
Well, Mark...
And that really was, I think, for me, it brought home just how perverse and deeply disturbing this whole situation around hotels like the Metropole were. You have some of society's most vulnerable people effectively abandoned and living rough, while people that have broken the law to enter this country are afforded the comfortable surrounds of this iconic hotel. Well, at least now, after 5 years, it is going to be returned back to the people of Blackpool. It will become a tourist hotel once more. At least that's the hope, if the hotel group Britannia do invest in it and bring it back up to standard so that it can become an iconic tourist hotel again. But then, you know, there's no guarantee that the people of Blackpool, who feel very betrayed by what this hotel group have done in, you know, getting their guaranteed income for 5 years, but closing a utility that was so important to this holiday seaside town. There's no guarantee that these people will come back and start using this facility again.
And of course, Mark, of course, we support the idea of closing these migrant hotels. The cost is absolutely enormous. What is it, running into billions of pounds a year? But I suppose the one point you can make in their favour, people know where they are. Where will these migrants be dispersed to? Are they going to end up in in nice residential villages, taking rented properties, which landlords are going to do exactly what the Britannia Group did, make money out of refugees.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. You know, as absolutely, you know, controversial and disturbing as the requisition of hundreds and hundreds of hotels was right across the country, that was something that angered so many people, and understandably. At least what you could say for hotels was, you know, if it was in your community, you knew where it was. If you had concerns, you could avoid the area. And they did employ security personnel, at least within the confines of the hotel, to keep an eye on these individuals. But in moving to what the government says a dispersal model, so that, you know, all parts of the country will play their part in trying to house these asylum seekers, they are going off to locations which are completely unsuitable. Okay, military camps, former military camps, again, you'll know where they are and there will be some security in the camps, but these people are still, of course, allowed to wander free. And I think the most disturbing aspect, which is a model that the government seems very, very intent on driving forward, is the increasing use of houses of multiple occupation, where you will get, you know, not just one asylum seeker living next door to you, but, you know, 8, 9, maybe 10 asylum seekers in an HMO on your street. There will be no security there. And I can imagine that there will be people that will feel very vulnerable and unsettled by what is happening.
Because, of course, we don't know where all these people are from, who they are, what if they had any horrible motives lurking in their heart when they came here.
Yeah, and we know, Andrew, that many of those who have come across the channel do have previous history of violence. We know that people that have come across the channel have been wanted for murder elsewhere, either in the continent of Europe or back in their home countries, and then gone on to commit absolutely appalling crimes in this country. And we see it, you know. It's almost a daily occurrence now. It's certainly a weekly occurrence where we get news of yet another illegal migrant, an asylum seeker who is up before the courts charged with some horrific offence.
Mark White, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, coming up next, fascinating polling shows only a third of young women hold positive views of men. You won't believe some of the other findings.
But first, if you want some of that elusive holiday sun, here's the forecast of some of our best European destinations.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. If you're heading away over the next few days, it is turning drier than it has been across the Mediterranean. Still very warm in the Canaries as well. A little bit cooler for Madeira, just 16 degrees on Friday. Plenty of sunshine across Spain into southern France as well. Italy starting to see some drier weather, and the more unsettled weather is finally pushing away to the east. So for Greece and Croatia, it will become a little bit drier into the weekend and very warm in Tenerife too. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 10 to 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Now, this is an extraordinary new poll. It finds that just 1/3 of young women hold a positive view of us men.
Well, according to this survey, which has been published in the New Statesman, women under the age of 25 don't care for young men, and they believe the feelings are mutual.
They cite an over-focus on what they say is sexual motivation and a lack of care about political issues.
Well, Madeline Grant, the assistant editor at The Spectator, joins us now. Madeline, good morning. Madeline, were you surprised at the results of this survey?
Not really, actually, because I think that although it's been under-discussed, it's really interesting that there's been such a level of analysis of the kind of Andrew Tate phenomenon and the potential radicalisation of young men. It's something that I think has completely passed us by, but certainly for me is recognisable in young women of my age who are actually probably older than the demographic that we're talking about here. And it also doesn't surprise me when you consider, for example, I mean, the polling is really interesting. It's not just about how they feel about young men, but about a range of political issues where they're significantly to the right of young men, to the left of young men. You have to look at the world that was kind of the prevailing mindset at the time that these young women were coming of age. You know, they came of age during the pandemic, a time of great crisis and fear, but also, I guess, what we could call the high watermark of woke, BLM, and a quite millenarial view of climate change. And at that time, an awful lot of adults, the people that maybe should have been bringing a little bit of doubt to bear in these discussions or some criticism, were just going wholesale along with this very extreme ideology. And I think this how could it not have informed the way that these young women are now viewing the world as they have entered adulthood?
In reading this piece, what comes across to me, Maddie, is that a lot of these young women seem to have no idea of the natural sex differences between men and women. I mean, these women seem surprised that men might want to spend time planning a protest rather than openly weeping. Surprised that the young men have got a sexual interest in them. Well, of course young men have a sexual interest in young women. How has the human species survived for 100,000 years? Why do you think women are so lacking, or young women lacking in understanding of what men are just naturally like?
Well, it may be that, I mean, I think that we spend a lot more time in the online world now than we used to. And these young women, their algorithms will have been feeding them a very one-sided view of human nature. And, you know, as I said before, I think until very recently, these ideas were the mainstream and they were being encouraged in school syllabi. So I think that's really important, that this comes from a failure of adults to get these ideas into check. But I think it's profoundly sad. I feel very sorry for many of these young women. You know, they are entering a world where the graduate jobs market is terrible, and it's just not a recipe for happiness. You know, all the things that we know bring people joy, the ability to form meaningful relationships with the opposite sex, for example. I fear that, you know, with this level of alienation and polarization, many young women will never be able to enjoy so much of what makes life worth living.
Poor men.
Yeah.
Poor men. Just not fair, Madeline, is it?
Well, I mean, I feel sorry for all young people right now. I think they've been completely let down by older generations. I really do. I think when you have, for example, institutional cover for extremism, when you have liberal judges, for example, excusing acts of vandalism if it's for some trendy cause, like, you know, for BLM or for Extinction Rebellion, they have these ideas. The idea that you can be extreme and possibly hateful in your thinking has been given like explicit endorsement by many people in positions of authority. So I can't say I'm too surprised by it.
No. Madeline, I'm so sorry. We are going to have to leave it there, but fascinating discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. Lots more to come, especially on social media, very relevant to this topic. Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update brought to you from the Met Office. Another day of sunshine and showers, though it's not going to be quite as wet for most of us, and it will feel relatively warm in the sunshine. The best of the sunshine through this morning for many southern areas. Cloud will thicken a little bit through this afternoon, and there is a risk of showers across many southern counties. Parts of northern England could see the odd shower, but it's parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, where we're most likely to get caught out in one of those showers. Some of these could be quite heavy across northern areas, but not quite as heavy as recent days. Not feeling too bad in the sunshine, temperatures climbing to the high teens for some of us, but for most of us, around average 14 or 15 degrees today. A cloudy night to come for many of us, but before then we will see some clearer skies across the far north of Scotland, but we do continue to hold on to that shower risk through much of the day. A mild night as well. Lots of cloud and some light rain across Northern Ireland through this evening. That will push into parts of Wales, some areas of central England too. Many southern counties seeing quite a lot of cloud around. There's a risk of mist and fog as well across many southern areas, so it's going to be quite a murky night overnight tonight, but a mild one. We've got southerly winds bringing in that mild air, but also this southerly winds will be wrapped around an area of low pressure, which brings a more unsettled day on Friday. So quite a lot of cloud to start the day on Friday. Temperatures around 9 to 11 degrees, relatively mild for the time of year. Pretty similar to yesterday morning, in fact. And then this band of rain that pushes eastwards across the country through the day. It brings a spell of wet weather through the middle of the day. Now, either side of that, there will be some sunshine across the southeast and the southwest through the afternoon, and it will feel relatively warm in that sunshine again. Temperatures climbing towards the high teens in the south and east, but it's going to feel a lot fresher with strong winds further north and west.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Time is ticking on your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB Newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 16th of April, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, are we facing a tax tsunami? The International Monetary Fund calls out the Chancellor for raising tax at the fastest rate in the world. Do you remember this pledge from 2 years ago?
It comes to choices on tax. This government chooses to protect working people every single time.
And Britain could face a fresh food crunch. Chicken and pork supplies could be under threat. It's all to do with the Strait of Hormuz blockade. We'll tell you more about that.
And there is an ongoing social media showdown happening right now because the Prime Minister is hauling social media bosses into Downing Street to demand tougher child protection online.
I'm absolutely clear in my mind we need to do more. We're not protecting children enough. So the question for me is not whether we do something, we are going to do something.
Some breaking news. Blackpool South MP Chris Webb has told GB News the town's Metropole Hotel will no longer be used to house illegal migrants after 5 years.
This will close within 3 months. The Home Office are already engaging now with Britannia and with Serco to rehouse these people elsewhere in the country.
We know that Britain's roads have been plagued for far too long with potholes, and so we want to take action and get these fixed.
Well, a bumpy ride for Labour. A pothole takes out the Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander's Millie Cooper in Oxfordshire.
She said this weekend, Mr. Speaker, that what she meant, she was talking about verbal support.
Prime Minister, it's Prime Minister's questions. We've got to concentrate.
Disorder in the Commons. The Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle, holding the Prime Minister's account for not answering questions, and it led to a visibly angry Sir Keir Starmer confronting the Speaker at the end of Prime Minister's questions. We'll bring you all of the details. We're going to talk about that a bit later because Nigel Nelson, who is our political commentator, he was in the Commons gallery for Prime Minister's questions, and it's quite rare for a Speaker to go for the Prime Minister in such a way, but the point he was making is the Prime Minister is always... he's not answering questions, he's trying to turn it into the leader of the opposition questions.
Yeah.
And
maybe he can't get out of the habit after being the leader of the opposition.
Yeah, so the Speaker challenged the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister was clearly enraged. But what was extraordinary, Miriam, at the end, he remonstrated with the Speaker and appeared to be banging the side of the Speaker's chair. Where's his self-control?
clearly very wound up. I mean, everybody understands and knows that prime ministers tend to try and fudge the answer to the questions that they're asked, but it's a different thing altogether to try and turn around the questioning onto the leader of the opposition. Of course, is not in government. They don't have to be held to account for those decisions.
And I think it's a reflection too that Kemi Badenoch, polls are terrible for the Tories, of course, but she has got a lot better in the House of Commons, and he used to wipe the floor with her. It's the other way around now.
Yes, she's definitely got a lot more confidence, hasn't she? Well, we'd love to know what you think. Send your views and comments to gbnews.com/yoursay.
First, here's the headlines with Sam Francis.
Andrew, Miriam, thank you very much, and good morning to you. Just gone 11 o'clock. Israeli and Lebanese leaders are set to hold direct talks today, according to Israeli officials. Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to speak with Lebanon's president, a move first suggested overnight by Donald Trump. But the situation at this stage, well, it remains unclear. Officials in Lebanon have said they have no confirmation that any talks are scheduled. Meanwhile, here in the UK, we could soon be facing food shortages by the summer under a worst-case scenario linked to the ongoing Middle East conflict. Officials are planning for potential disruption to carbon dioxide supplies, a key component in food production and preservation. That could impact items like meat and fresh produce if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. Ministers stress, though, it is a contingency and not a prediction, and they say at this stage there is no immediate risk to food supplies. The government is also expanding plans to cut electricity bills for thousands of UK manufacturers. Around 10,000 firms are now expected to benefit under a scheme aimed at reducing costs and supporting key industries. Ministers say that the move will help businesses compete and to protect jobs as energy prices are rising following the ongoing instability in the Middle East. Sir Keir Starmer has told social media bosses today that the risks facing children online can't go on like this. He summoned senior figures from companies including TikTok, Meta and Google to Downing Street, urging them to do more to protect young users. The meeting comes as the government considers new measures, including possible restrictions for under 16s and limits on addictive features. Ministers are under pressure now to go further after MPs rejected calls for an immediate ban, while some campaigners say action is still too slow. Tech firms, though, warn that outright restrictions could push children towards more dangerous online spaces. And that comes as police are reportedly not doing enough to tackle online child sexual abuse, according to a new report. Inspectors say cases are rising sharply, with officers overwhelmed and children waiting too long to be safeguarded. They warn that forces lack the training, the technology and even staffing needed, with some investigators handling dozens of cases at once. The government says it is investing in policing and new technology and will strengthen laws to protect children online. Also today, the government says it is launching a £500 million fund to support British artificial intelligence firms. The new Sovereign AI unit will invest in companies and give access to computing power, research and government contracts. Ministers say it marks a shift towards long-term support for the sector as the UK looks to compete globally in AI development. The move comes after concerns over investment following delays to a major data centre project. And patients are being warned about fake weight loss jabs being sold online. Pharmacies say criminals are cloning legitimate websites to sell counterfeit medication, often at suspiciously low prices. A survey suggests 1 in 10 online pharmacies has been targeted already. Experts warn the drugs could be unsafe and are calling for safer and stronger action from regulators and social media companies. Those are the 11 o'clock headlines. I'll be back with you shortly. Now, though, it's back to Britain's newsroom.
Hello, good morning and welcome. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, the Prime Minister says he's cracking down on social media giants. He summons them from TikTok and Meta to Downing Street today to push for them to go further on protecting children.
Well, the meeting comes midway through the government's consultation on how to protect children online, which could include an Australian-style social media ban for under 16s.
Let's talk to the former Health Minister, Lord Bethell, who joins us now. Lord Bethell, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good to talk to you, Lord Bethell. I'm just struck by the timing of this meeting at Number 10 today with the social media giant, Lord Bethell, because in the Commons yesterday there was a vote pushed by the Conservatives seeking to do what they're doing in Australia and ban under 16-year-olds from accessing social media. And Keir Starmer and Labour MPs voted against it. And yet today he's calling in the social media giant to say, what are you going to do about it?
It's quite weird, isn't it? It's confusing. Calling in the social media giants is exactly the right thing to do. He should be using his prestige as Prime Minister to explain to social media companies that they need a new social contract in the UK, that parents are frustrated and fed up with the predators reaching their children, the amount of time that children spend on their social media, the impact it's having on their mental health and their education. He needs to spell it out to them in very clear and stark terms, because it's time for a big change. But it's super weird that he does that meeting the day after literally whipping his own MPs to vote down a perfectly reasonable under-16 social media ban that has been passed in several other countries. Ellen Room, the incredibly impressive parent whose daughter very sadly died, put it so well when she was on your show. She said that it was very confusing to parents like her that the Prime Minister talks out of both sides of his mouth like this. I would really encourage him to listen to his voters, to listen to the disquiet on his own benches, and to really lean in on establishing a new contract with the social media companies.
James, often when we cover this topic, our viewers who write in on our Your Say platform say that this should be a matter for parents. If parents don't want their children to have social media, they shouldn't allow them to have it, and the government just shouldn't get involved. What are your thoughts on that?
Typically, that's absolutely right. I'm a believer in capitalism, free markets and choice. And usually I would say leave it to people to make their own choices. But there is such substantial communal pressure on children to be stuck on this social media that they don't really have a choice. There is such potent mobilization of behavioral science to create addictive algorithms with the blue light, the flashing images, the escalator to violence and to sexual content, and the use by predators and fraudsters of all of those materials, that this has become an environment where we aren't really making choices. And certainly our children are not. They are trapped into something that is truly addictive, and they have so much pressure from other children to spend hours and hours that I'm afraid parents quite rightly have reached the point that they are seeking government intervention to create a level playing field so that parents can reasonably compete with the devices. They don't feel that they can at the moment.
The government line, the Prime Minister would say if he was here, is that Australia has acted already and they're waiting to see how it works in Australia. But do you think there's time to wait? Don't they just have to get on with it now?
I'm in favour of evidence-based policy making. I'm in favour of empiricism and looking at the clinical studies. But Andrew, there's a mass of that material already in place, and we have to be honest with ourselves. We know that the lobbyists from the social media companies are working really hard at this, and these are companies that, by the way, are investing billions of pounds in data centres in the UK, who are building headquarters here, who we need for, in some cases, to help us in medicine, in logistics, in defence. I mean, these are our partners in an incredibly important technological revolution. It's just that they have a blind spot when it comes to child safety. And people who are essential allies in many parts of our important industrial development need to be told, you have to protect children. This isn't an option. This is something that any reasonable company could do. And you just can't have a license to trade in the UK if you're not prepared to step up and have a safe regime for our children. That's what I hope Starmer is saying to those companies today. His behaviour in the voting lobbies last night makes me worry that he's falling a bit short of that.
James Bethell, former Health Minister, thank you so much for your time this morning. I think that is such a good way of putting it, Andrew, isn't it? This is a product that's not safe for children. We don't allow other products that are not safe to children to be sold.
We don't let 13-year-olds smoke.
No.
We don't let them drink because it's bad for their health. So why are we giving them access to this disgusting stuff?
And also, I understand people say your parents should be monitoring their children. Of course, they should be monitoring primary school children, but teenagers aren't meant to be monitored. They need to be given independence. You shouldn't be looking over their shoulder 24 hours a day.
Well, how can they do that
How
anyway?
can you? Especially if you're working full-time. Exactly. We need to know that they're safe to be independent, and at the moment they're not.
The worry for parents is their own children are not safe in their own bedrooms.
Exactly. But they won't let them play outdoors because now there's no one else to play outdoors with, or they think it's not safe. It's a lot safer to be outdoors than it is in your bedroom on your phone.
Certainly. Now, today's the first anniversary of the landmark ruling by the Supreme Court on single-sex spaces, but the government has been accused of betraying the women and that verdict by the Tory leader, Kemi Badenoch.
Well, campaigners celebrated outside the Supreme Court after judges confirmed that the terms woman and sex in the 2010 Equality Act refer to a biological woman and a biological sex. But hundreds of public bodies still aren't enforcing the rules.
We're going to talk to transgender teacher and journalist Debbie Hayton. Debbie Hayton, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
A year on, and we know that Bridget Phillipson, who's the Education Secretary, but is also the Equalities Minister, has published nothing whatsoever since that Supreme Court ruling. She's being accused of betraying women. Do you think that's right?
Well, she has done, and it's an exercise in procrastination now that's gone on for a year, and it's how much longer this can go on for is the question.
We were discussing, Debbie, with our panellists earlier on, once the government has issued guidance, how will this work in practice? Because obviously there are trans people like you who may be stuck in limbo. What is the answer, and who should police the guidance once it is at least written down?
Well, the problem that the government faces is it's trying to impose rules on groups that may have their own ideas. Previously, groups were told that they were not allowed to exclude trans women from women's groups, and that met with resistance. Now the government's faced with a situation where they're going to tell groups that they have to exclude trans women, and for that reason, it's difficult for the government to actually push that legislation forward. There will be complaints, there will be problems, and although it is right that women should have the right to protect their spaces. That should be that should always come first. The issue is that the government is not sure whether they can actually insist that groups do that.
Doesn't the Supreme Court ruling mean they've got to insist on that?
Well, they can insist, but what happens when groups then say, "Sorry, we don't want to do this"?
Well, that's the problem of enforcement as well, isn't it? We were talking earlier, Debbie, to Karen Malone in the studio. She said she was in a women's changing room and a man dressed as a woman came in and she said, "You're not supposed to be here." It's not her job to have said that. That should be the role of the store, but the shop assistant was just mortified and didn't know how to behave.
Well, that's right, and that's why the trans woman really shouldn't have been in that situation. The approach I take, because women do say to me, "Well, we don't have a problem with you, Debbie." But my response to that is always, if you say yes to me, then it's more difficult for you to say no to the next trans person who you certainly don't want in there.
We've been talking today, Debbie, about social media, whether children should have it. Also, some polling that shows young women hate men and have vastly different political views to young men. What do you think the role of social media has been in driving some of the trans ideology that we've seen rapidly increase over the last 15 years?
I think we've lost Debbie, I'm afraid.
Sorry.
Did you hear the question, Debbie? Do you want Miriam to repeat it?
I did hear the question, yes. Have you got me back?
Yes, we have.
We can hear you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think that without social media, this would not have happened. It's only through social media that these issues and these ideas have been allowed to spread. Without that, it's inconceivable that this would have happened a generation ago.
Debbie Hayton, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
I know it's difficult, but I'm afraid the Secretary of State the Equality Secretary, she has to make a stand here.
Yeah.
She's got to say something, she's got to publish something.
Yeah.
She's sitting on the fence, and I do think it's political.
There will be fights, there will be arguments, there may be legal cases, but we've got to start somewhere.
But that's what being in government's all about.
That is very true.
You have to make decisions.
Indeed. Well, the government spokesperson said, "We have always supported the protection of single-sex spaces based on biological sex. The Supreme Court ruling last year brings clarity for women and service providers."
If only that were true. Time now for the British giveaway. The clock's ticking on your chance to win £25,000 in cash and that four-berth motorhome, which is worth £67,000. Here's how you do it.
Time is ticking on your chance to win our biggest prize of the year so far. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new four-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, this stylish home from home comes with all of the features you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £67,000. Alloy wheels, solar panel and pop-top bunks for an optional sleeping area. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. The winner may be contacted live after all entry routes have closed. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Up next, not only disorder in the newsroom, but disorder in the Commons. We'll tell you why Sir Keir Starmer threw his toys out of the pram at PMQs yesterday.
We'll go through that and much more with Carol Malone and Nigel Nelson, who regularly throw their toys out of the pram. And of course, Nigel Nelson was in the Commons chamber, actually, and saw the bust-up with the Prime Minister. This is Britain's Newsroom on GBNews. Yeah, our very own eyewitness.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's 22 minutes past 11. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, it got very lively in the Commons yesterday when the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, did his duty and held the Prime Minister to account for not answering questions. Take a look.
She said this weekend, Mr. Speaker, that what she meant, she was talking about verbal support.
Well, Prime Minister, it's Prime Minister's questions. We've got to concentrate.
Well, a visibly angry Sir Keir Starmer then confronted Sir Lindsay Hoyle.
And he appeared to be banging the side of the Speaker's chair. We're joined in the studio by Carol Malone and Nigel Nelson. Nigel's our chief political commentator. Nigel, you were in the gallery.
I was, yeah.
So you were watching it. The Speaker had a point. The Prime Minister does not answer questions at PMQs.
No, I mean, all Prime Ministers try and dodge the question, sure. So he's not unique in that way. But this was particularly egregious, and that's why the Speaker interrupted him and made him sit down. And what had happened was that Kemi Badenoch had asked a perfectly reasonable question about when the defence investment plan was going to be announced. Yes. It was due before Christmas.
It was.
He wanted to dodge the question because clearly they don't know when it is going to be announced, and then attack Kemi for her support for the war in the early stages. And he keeps repeating that.
He does that every week.
Yeah, well, he's been doing it every week for PMQs since the war began. I mean, it's the same riff as my dad was a toolmaker. It's one of those things that he just keeps saying. So the Speaker had enough, and he said, look, you've got to stop. I didn't see the altercation afterwards, but you could see from where I was sitting that the Prime Minister was clearly pretty angry about it.
I mean, Nigel's right, all speakers try to avoid it, but I can remember when I was first in Parliament, when I first knew Nigel, in the gallery for the Times, when Mrs Thatcher was Prime Minister, she would often look daggers at the Speaker, who was then Bernard Weatherall, if he would intervene. But he never, ever once said to her, you're not answering the question, Prime Minister. He might interrupt her. But she never challenged him because she understood the Speaker is the custodian.
He's the boss, basically. And Starmer was furious. There's a lot of backbenchers today quoted in the papers saying he was absolutely furious to the point that when he walked out, he banged the Speaker's chair. And Sir Lindsay Hoyle tried to talk to him, and he just waved him off and walked out of the chamber in a huff. Now, it's not this has been Starmer has done this since he came into power. He never answers a straight question, and we've all talked about it. And I haven't seen him before being held up about it, but apparently the Speaker has actually made this point to number 10 officials 2 or 3 times just recently to say Starmer can't be asking questions. Yeah. It's Prime Minister's questions, not opposition questions. And this is just his way of avoiding responsibility. And it's cowardly, but it's also, you don't disrespect the Speaker. But, the good thing about Hoyle is that he really doubled down, and he issued a statement, actually, today, which he said, questions to ministers should relate to matters for which they are officially responsible. Equally, answers should be confined to the points contained in the question. And he says, and this is when they said the Speaker has made this point to officials lots of times, to number 10 officials, to tell him to stop it. And he's not. And he obviously thinks that he's got power over the Speaker, and he obviously thinks that there's an arrangement where he can do what he wants. Well, he can't, and he's been made to look foolish here.
I can't recall a Speaker issuing a statement like that.
No, nor can I. I mean, I think
you and I have been in and out of that place for.
Yeah, and I've seen Prime Ministers be brought up by the Speaker because they're out of order. So what happened yesterday was not a surprise until Keir Starmer then decided to take on the Speaker. I mean, the whole point is the Prime Minister might run the country, but within Parliament...
Well, that's debatable with this one.
Yes, well, exactly.
Within Parliament, that is the Speaker's fiefdom. When you and I walk into Parliament, our boss is the Speaker.
That's right.
But Nigel, the reason that he is asking Kemi those questions questions is because Keir Starmer has seen a slight bounce in his personal poll ratings. He's still very negative, but because of how he's handled the war, and perhaps he sees that as a weak point for Kemi Badenoch, is that he can claim that she initially supported the war. So he's really grasping at straws.
Well, I mean, there's no perhaps about it. It's exactly what he thinks, yeah, that he found himself on the right side of public opinion by opposing the war, and Kemi Badenoch and Nigel Farage were on the wrong side of public opinion. Well, he doesn't need to keep repeating it, and I think that he's made his point.
But she was also trying to make the point about defence spending, and about the fact that defence spending, there's no money being spent on it. She was trying to talk about welfare and the burgeoning.
You remember George Robertson, the former Defence Secretary, had said welfare is being put too much money on welfare, not enough on defence.
And isn't it interesting that George Robertson, who was one of the authors of the Defence Spending Review, I think the timing of what he said this week, apparently he has been giving coded messages to Starmer for weeks now. Starmer's about defence budget, and Starmer's taking no notice. And so that he spoke out. That's a big thing for
and he's a former Labour Defence Secretary.
And he's a very esteemed NATO General, Secretary, I can't remember the title, Secretary General. You make the point that we have 11 million people in this country who aren't working at all because they don't feel like it. We've got 6.5 million on out-of-work benefits. We've got 1 million young people not in work or education, and 1.5 million people on universal credit. And that bill by 2040 is projected to go to something like 406 billion. 106 billion of that is projected to go on sickness and disability benefits. How can we be spending 5 times more on welfare than we are on the defence of the realm? How?
He's vulnerable on defence because the attack by Robertson was extraordinary.
Yes, it was.
The language he used was extraordinary.
Yeah,
and he also talked about the bandle in the Treasury. That's the chance of the
Yes, and George Robertson had to be really frustrated to actually make an intervention like that. I mean, I think that on the defence front, we've got to actually recognise just how much this thing is going to cost. At the moment, that we're on 2.3% of the national wealth spent on defence, goes to 3.5. That will cost £36 billion a year extra. Which is 960 quid for every person in Britain.
The government is spending 18 billion more this year on the welfare budget. Do you know that 18 billion quid could buy 15 tankers? It could pay for 220 fighter jets. Why are we not doing that? Cut defence, but he won't cut defence because he's terrified of losing his job.
We do want to move on, though. Miriam.
Yes, well, I'm sure our panel are aware that the Sussexes are in tour in Australia. Let's have a listen to what Meghan said about the criticism that she faces online. Take a listen to this.
Now 10 years, every day for 10 years, I have been bullied and attacked, and I was the most trolled person in the entire world, man or woman. I'm still here.
So that's Meghan saying she's been, for the last years, the most trolled person online in the entire world. She said that, this member of the royal family, which she alleges she still is, at a mental health charity. Can you believe the time and the place?
Well, it's all about her. It's always all about her, isn't it? I mean, she's in Australia at the moment, and in fact, it's interesting. Your paper today has written a piece saying she's doing exactly what the Queen was feared that she would do. She's basically, they're a brand, they're selling themselves in Australia. You know, she's just been signed up for MasterChef out there. She's selling the As Ever brand. She's doing these talks for 1,400 quid a time, which incidentally are not selling. Why would you pay 1,400 quid to listen to this, to her moaning about herself? And that's the point. It's always about her. You know, and it was the same with Harry. He goes to talk to a men's charity this week, and he's talking about how he wants to be a better parent than his father, which is incredibly hurtful, incredibly cruel, considering Charles was a single parent. He was heir to the throne and doing a full-time job, unlike Harry, let me say, and trying to cope with the death of the mother of his children. Whether they were together or not is irrelevant. It was a massive hole in their lives. And Harry is saying he's going to be a better parent. Well, what he's doing is moaning to this charity about how difficult it is.
Oh, we're trolling them now, aren't we, Nigel?
How does she know she's been the most trolled person in the world? Where is the evidence for that?
Well, I mean, it's probably an outrageous claim. I'm sure there's somebody out there who gets
She was in South Africa where she said to Tom Bradbury, I said, what about me? Nobody asked about me. This privileged woman who'd just been talking to women who'd been victims of domestic violence and had limbs blown off.
I agree with all that. But isn't the central point, though, that if you're in the public eye, and Meghan chose to do that, she knew what she was getting into.
And she's put herself back in the public eye.
And put herself back in the public eye, you will get trolled trolled on social media, it goes with a job. It's a kind of job tax that you pay.
I suspect Starmer and Trump are trolled more than her, actually.
Yes,
don't
I'm
you
sure.
think?
Yeah.
So, but it's always woe is me. She's always selling the woe is me story whilst trying to make fortunes because, of course, all her jobs are drying up now.
Privileged, rich, married to a man who used to be one of the most popular men in the world,
which is
she's
now
whinging
not
at a mental health charity of all places.
Yeah, and he's kicking his heels at another charity because he's got nothing to do there, really. You know, trying to...
And still getting airtime in the UK.
They're a pair of luggers.
Well, we don't have to talk about them, do we? But we do. Anyway, thank you to our panel. Here's our 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. The headlines this hour. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to speak with Lebanon's president today, according to Israeli officials. The direct talks were first suggested overnight by Donald Trump, but Lebanon says it still has no confirmation. The UK could face food shortages by the summer under a worst-case scenario linked to the Middle East conflict. Health Secretary Wes Streeting says there is no immediate risk, but the government is preparing for possible disruption to key supplies.
This government is always thinking about the risks the country faces on a wide range of fronts and making sure that we're well prepared, not just for the best case, but for the very unlikely worst cases too.
The government is also expanding plans to cut electricity bills for thousands of UK manufacturers. Ministers say the move will help firms cope with rising energy costs driven by the Middle East conflict. Social media bosses have been summoned to Downing Street today to face questions over child safety. The Prime Minister says companies must step up or face tougher regulation. And the government is launching a £500 million fund to support British artificial intelligence firms. Ministers say the new sovereign AI unit will help the UK compete globally in the race to develop new technologies. Those are the 11:30 headlines for you. A full roundup at midday.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, coming up at noon on GB News, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Dawn. They've joined us in the studio. What's coming up today on your show?
Well, of course, Rachel Reeves is in Washington.
She's pleased about that. The timing couldn't be worse.
It couldn't
be as Washington is.
This comes as a new report has been released by the Institute of Economic Affairs, which has commissioned some polling by Freshwater Strategy, asking Brits how rich they think Britain is compared to American states. And Brits, on average, think we're about the 7th richest state out of the 50 of the United States. Now, in reality, according to the IMF, GDP per capita, we would be 51st. We would be poorer than Mississippi, the poorest state.
Good Lord.
Now, that's an astonishing statistic, and I think that there's an interesting point here, which is that Britons for the last 30 years have thought of ourselves as a rich country, because in the 1990s we absolutely were one of the richest in the world, and a net energy exporter and all the other things. But other countries have become much, much richer over the last 30 years, and we've stagnated. And so we've got this strange gap in perceptions where Brits think that we can afford lots of things, gold-plated infrastructure, expensive public sector spending, all these things. And yet the country isn't as rich as people think it is. And that's a real big problem for politicians to contend with.
What Tom's trying to say is we're skin, basically. Just about summed it up.
But we don't think we're skin, and that's the problem.
So we think that politicians can wantonly spend and spend and spend, and politicians will never win an argument saying we need to do this difficult thing for growth, because no one thinks that we're a developing country. The reason why Poland and China have soared ahead in the last 10 years is they think like a developing country. They know they were poor and need to do things to get rich. We think we're already rich, so we sit on our laurels.
And I'm afraid we've also got left-wing politicians say we're the 6th richest country in the world, so we can afford to...
Which is nonsense. We're the 6th largest economy in the world. We're not the 6th richest country.
Exactly.
Dawn.
We're also going live to America to catch up with Pete Hegseth, who is holding a press conference about whether there is a deal on the table with Iran, which could also solve a lot of problems we are expecting this summer, with the fact that we won't be able to put fuel in our cars, food
or
on
chicken
our table,
and pork on your Sunday roast,
etc., etc. And we're also talking about the Meghan story, about why she's the most unfortunate woman in the entire wide world.
Did you know she's the most trolled person in the whole of the universe?
Heart bleeds. So there's loads and loads of that coming up.
Thank you both. That's coming up at midday, but still ahead on Britain's Newsroom. We're being told to be braced for food shortages, and it's due to a potential lack of carbon dioxide. It's Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Well, through today, sunny spells for many, still some showers around, and then cloudier later with outbreaks of rain before high pressure builds over the weekend. Now we're in between systems at the moment, but to the west, another area of low pressure arriving to bring that cloud and rain. But through the rest of the afternoon, across northern England, especially largely dry here with sunny spells, showers across Scotland, and then a more focus for showers across Wales, the southwest of England, and then running through the south coast and into London. Otherwise, in terms of temperatures, if you dodge a shower, highs of up to 15 or 16 degrees. Now, as we head through this afternoon and into the evening, the showers persisting across much of Scotland. To the east, though, in any sheltered spots, that's where we'll hold on to some late evening sunshine. Cloud and rain already starting to arrive across Northern Ireland as we head through this evening then. So cloud thickening, outbreaks of rain arriving, and the winds picking up as well. That cloud and rain extends across Wales into the Midlands and the southwest of England as well. So as we go through this evening and more so overnight, that weather front pushes its way in. So turning more downhill, damp and dreary with showery outbreaks of rain pushing into much of northern England and then into Scotland. Behind that, we have another weather front bringing heavier rain across Northern Ireland. But a lot of cloud around still, so temperatures are going to be holding up, lows of 9 to 11 degrees. So as we start Friday morning, a damp picture across much of Scotland, outbreaks of rain, and then a more narrow band of rain pushing in across the country. To the far southeast, though, largely holding on to the driest conditions here, sunny spells, highs of up to 17 or 18 degrees. Behind that, feeling slightly cooler with frequent blustery showers and some strong winds.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
What's the time?
It's 20 to 12.
It is.
Same thing.
This is Andrew Miriam on Britain's Newsroom.
Well, could the UK be facing a summer of food shortages on our supermarket shelves?
It appears there could be, which is why government officials are drafting plans for what they call a reasonable worst-case scenario amid fears the war in Iran will lead to shortages of carbon dioxide, which is critical to the food industry.
Well, we're joined now by the former Farming Minister, Sir Robert Goodwill. Sir Robert, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Now, we understand that the reason for some of these shortages is a shortage of carbon dioxide, which is used in the production of some of the food that we find on our supermarket shelves. Can you tell us more?
Yeah, it's primarily a problem with access to food-grade CO2. I mean, there's lots of CO2 in the atmosphere, but it's used for example, carbonated drinks. It's used for dispensing beer. It's used as a packaging gas to extend the shelf life of some products. But most importantly, in this context, it's used for pre-stunning pigs. Virtually all pigs that are slaughtered in this country, and about 2/3 of poultry are pre-stunned with CO2. We had a similar problem following the Russian invasion of Ukraine when the CF fertiliser plant at Billingham and their plant at Ince in Cheshire closed down. There was a shortage of CO2, and those plants are now permanently closed down in terms of producing CO2 because of the high energy prices here in the UK. So we rely on the CO2 from two bioethanol plants, one on Teesside and one on the Humber. But unfortunately, they closed down because of the deal on ethanol that Starmer signed with Trump, and it became uneconomical to produce bioethanol in the UK. So the government is now subsidising the ENSUS plant on Teesside to produce CO2, and hopefully we'll be able to keep going with that. But they're putting millions into that plant to run an uneconomic plant to produce the CO2 that we need. But ultimately, we could be in the situation that we were after the invasion of Ukraine, when pigs couldn't be sent to market, they couldn't be slaughtered, and they were actually killed on farms on a government scheme. So I think the short message is don't panic. You know, we're not going to see shortages on the shelves, but in this specific instance with CO2 in the short term, we could have problems. In the long term, with fertiliser supplies, there could be big problems if the blockade on the Straits of Hormuz carries on into the autumn.
I was going to ask you about that, Sir Robert. Is the fertiliser issue potentially the real flashpoint for our food?
Yes, I mean, most of the crops in this country are in the ground now, and most arable farmers like me bought our fertiliser back in July. There'll be one or two people who may be a bit hard up who are having to pay inflated prices, but if we can't get fertiliser onto the farms for next season, and indeed, you know, places like Australia rely very much on urea fertiliser, which is a nitrogen fertiliser coming from the Gulf. So we could be facing a big problem. And the particular problem for farmers here in the UK is that unlike when Russia invaded Ukraine, the price of fertiliser went through the roof, but so did the price of wheat. This year, the price of wheat hasn't really altered, but the price of fertiliser has rocketed and may continue to rocket more, as has the price of diesel for our tractors, the price of diesel for distribution. So I think people are going to see prices go up in the shops, not because farmers are getting more at the gate, because we can't affect our prices, but because of the fact that the logistics and the cost of getting that food onto the shelves, of heating the supermarkets, and of course the supermarkets are already facing higher costs through national insurance, etc. So I think we're going to see food price inflation, but that's not going to feed back down to the farmers.
Certainly going to see inflation and some shortages, but do you think if this crisis were to continue for much longer than we're hoping, it could become much more serious, not just a few particular foodstuffs that we can frankly live without, fizzy drinks, you can survive without those, but actually could we get to the point where there are genuine shortage of staple foods?
I think President Trump can't survive without a can of Coca-Cola in his hand, but I mean, beer dispensers. I mean, we might be able to survive without fizzy drinks, but I don't think up here in Yorkshire we could survive without a pint of Theakston's. And a lot of the beer, although they don't use CO2 in producing the beer, it's dispensed from the keg using CO2. So there could be lots of effects on that. And of course, a lot of our fruit and vegetables now come from places like the south of Spain. The cost of diesel for those trucks, the cost of refrigeration, and all those other costs are going to go up. So I don't foresee massive shortages on the shelves for most foods, but the cost is going to go up, and the supermarket will pass that on either by increasing the prices or by further putting pressure on farmers to reduce their prices.
Robert Goodwill, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Absolutely fascinating. Again, another unforeseen consequence of this war.
Absolutely.
Who'd have thought it?
You might have to have neat gin if you can't get fizzy tonic water, Andrew.
Now, there's an idea. But also, farmers may have to do the land without any fertiliser.
I know. I mean,
the green lobby would say that's good.
Exactly. But even if the crisis was resolved today and ships started flowing through the Strait of Hormuz, the long tail of this crisis is going to be enormous, months and months.
And food inflation is already higher than
30% since COVID.
Absolutely.
Incredible.
Now, up next, Meghan Markle claims she's the most trolled person in the world. Take a listen.
For now 10 years, every day for 10 years, I have been bullied and attacked, and I was the most trolled person in the entire world, man or woman. I'm still here.
Poor me, poor me.
But could that title belong to Keir Starmer, who threw his toys out of the pram after PMQs yesterday?
We'll tell you all about that. But if you're in search of some of that elusive holiday sun, here's the forecast.
looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. If you're heading away over the next few days, it is turning drier than it has been across the Mediterranean. Still very warm in the Canaries as well. A little bit cooler for Madeira, just 16 degrees on Friday. Plenty of sunshine across Spain into southern France as well. Italy starting to see some drier weather, and the more unsettled weather is finally pushing away to the east. So for Greece and Croatia, it will become a little bit drier into the weekend and very warm in Tenerife too. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings,
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Now, it's pretty extraordinary during Prime Minister's questions yesterday when Sir Keir Starmer was slapped down audibly by the Speaker, Sir Lindsay Hoyle.
Well, the Speaker accused Sir Keir Starmer of not answering a question from Kemi Badenoch. Here's what happened.
She said this weekend, Mr. Speaker, that what she meant, she was talking about verbal support.
Well, Prime Minister, it's Prime Minister's questions. We've got to concentrate.
Then afterwards, he appeared to slam the side of Sir Lindsay Hoyle's chair in what can only be described as a temper tantrum. So our GB News political correspondent Olivia Utley's here. Olivia, it's the job of the Speaker to make sure ministers, Prime Ministers, answer questions. And he has been, we now know, behind the scenes, telling Downing Street, he's got to get his act together.
Well, absolutely. It was such an extraordinary, electric incident in the chamber yesterday. I was there watching. So unusual for a speaker to interrupt. I've never seen it before, for a speaker to interrupt a Prime Minister like that and say, basically, you need to answer the question. As you say, it turns out there is a bit more history to this. The Speaker's spokesperson released a statement saying that the Prime Minister has been reminded on frequent occasions recently that he must answer the question from the Leader of the Opposition. Basically, Keir Starmer has a strategy, and the people around him are pretty open about this, that when he's up at Prime Minister's questions, he will basically talk about what he wants to talk about. That strategy works quite well if you're thinking in terms of social media, because you get these little clips of Keir Starmer, and when you haven't heard the question from Kemi Badenoch, you don't know that Keir Starmer hasn't actually answered the question, and you just get Keir Starmer, you know, speaking on a soapbox about whatever he wants to talk about. But of course, that's not how Prime Minister's questions is supposed to work. And Lindsay Hoyle, who plays by the book, pretty straightforward speaker, things are how they should be sort of under him. He doesn't like the way that Keir Starmer has been doing it. It's now progressed into a little bit more of a row between the two of them, with, as you say, Keir Starmer coming out with a temper tantrum which looked more worthy of someone like Gordon Brown. I haven't seen that side of Keir Starmer really before. Let's see how it develops, because I think it'll take quite a lot for Keir Starmer to drop this deliberate strategy of talking about what he wants to talk about. Exactly. It is the way he has always done things. How will this progress over the next few weeks? I'll be really interested to see. And, I mean, you were MP. You know what it was like in the Commons chamber.
Very loud.
Yeah.
Well, that's it from us today. I'll be back tomorrow with Alex Armstrong. You'll be back on Monday.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Britain's next for Tom Adorn. See you soon.
What might Rachel Reeves get up to in Washington, D.C.? We'll have the details on that and the latest briefing from the Pentagon over the state of the Iran war.
And we're also talking about the latest shocking way that migrants are getting to stay in this country illegally. You won't believe what you're about to hear.
All of that to come and more after your latest weather forecast.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to your latest GB News weather update, brought to you from the Met Office. Another day of sunshine and showers, though it's not going to be quite as wet for most of us, and it will feel relatively warm in the sunshine. The best of the sunshine through this morning for many southern areas. Cloud will thicken a little bit through this afternoon, and there is a risk of showers across many southern counties. Parts of northern England could see the odd shower, but it's parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, where we're most likely to get caught out in one of those showers. Some of these could be quite heavy across northern areas, but not quite as heavy as recent days. Not feeling too bad in the sunshine, temperatures climbing to the high teens for some of us, but for most of us, around average 14 or 15 degrees today. A cloudy night to come for many of us, but before then we will see some clearer skies across the far north of Scotland, but we do continue to hold on to that shower risk through much of the day. A mild night as well. Lots of cloud and some light rain across Northern Ireland through this evening. That will push into parts of Wales, some areas of central England too. Many southern counties seeing quite a lot of cloud around. There's a risk of mist and fog as well across many southern areas, so it's going to be quite a murky night overnight tonight, but a mild one. We've got southerly winds bringing in that mild air, but also this southerly winds will be wrapped around an area of low pressure, which brings a more unsettled day on Friday. So quite a lot of cloud to start the day on Friday. Temperatures around 9 to 11 degrees, relatively mild for the time of year. Pretty similar to yesterday morning, in fact. And then this band of rain that pushes eastwards across the country through the day. It brings a spell of wet weather through the middle of the day. Now, either side of that, there will be some sunshine across the southeast and the southwest through the afternoon, and it will feel relatively warm in that sunshine again. Temperatures climbing towards the high teens in the south and east, but it's going to feel a lot fresher with strong winds further north and west.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win big. One guaranteed winner will drive away with a brand new 4-berth Benivan 122 camper van, just in time for summer. You'll also get an additional £25,000 in tax-free cash. Our next winner really could be you, so secure your place in the draw today. For another chance to win a camper van and cash, text prize to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB20 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of May. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck!
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only